We're taking your lake house for the summer. That was the first line that lit up my phone on a Tuesday morning, a message from my sister in our family group chat. My coffee went cold as notifications exploded, thumbs ups, heart emojis, everyone cheering her on like it was a family victory. Nobody asked me. Not one text. Just assumption dressed as entitlement. I stared at the screen, heartbeat steady, face calm. They thought I'd stay silent like always. But that day, something inside me shifted. I smiled, set my cup down, and whispered, "All right then, let's see how this goes." I'm Emily Carter, 34, and if you'd met me a year ago, you'd have called me the quiet one. I've spent most of my adult life avoiding conflict, smoothing things over, being the dependable daughter who never raised her voice. I work as a senior data analyst at a big bank in Chicago, a job that thrives on logic and silence. My apartment downtown is small but spotless, everything labeled, every line of code, and every drawer in order. On weekends, when the city noise starts to hum through my skull, I drive 3 hours north to my lake house in Michigan. That place is mine in every sense. I bought it 6 years ago after a promotion that no one in my family even congratulated me for. A white cabin trimmed in blue, overlooking still water and pine trees that sway like slow metronomes. The air smells like rain and cedar, and in the mornings the fog rises so thick it looks like the world erases itself for a while. When I'm there, I can breathe. No coworkers, no meetings, no family drama, just quiet. My family, mom, dad, my sister Hannah, and her husband Tyler live 6 hours away in Indiana. Hannah's 31, married, young, loud, impulsive, the kind of person who fills every room she walks into. Growing up, she was the golden child. My mom, Linda, used to say, "She's just a free spirit, Emily. You're the sensible one." Sensible, her polite word for invisible. Dad Robert mostly nodded along. He wasn't unkind, he just didn't get involved. He believed keeping the peace was the same as keeping love. When we were kids, Hannah got the new bike while I fixed mine with duct tape. If she broke something, I got blamed for leaving it too close. By the time I turned 15, I stopped arguing. It was easier to be quiet, easier to disappear. And when I started making good money, it felt natural to help a washing machine when theirs broke a down payment. When Hannah's car got repossessed, the kind of invisible generosity families call support, but never repay. So when I bought the lake house, giving them a spare key felt harmless. I imagined long weekends together, barbecues, my mom laughing by the water. They used it a few times, mostly Hannah and Tyler. I didn't mind. I liked being the capable one, the one who made things possible. But over time, that generosity turned into expectation. The last time I visited home, Hannah's birthday in April, it was the same pattern. I brought her an expensive skincare set she'd mentioned once in passing. She squealed, hugged me, then immediately started talking about her new job promotion, their kitchen remodel, Tyler's car upgrade. Mom and Dad listened, smiling, nodding, proud of her every syllable. When Mom turned to me and asked, "So how's work, sweetheart?" I opened my mouth, but Hannah cut in. "Oh, you should see the new office I'm getting. It's twice the size of Tyler's." Everyone laughed. I stayed quiet, smiling like it didn't matter. But deep down, it burned, not because of envy, but because of how natural it was for them to overlook me. That night, while clearing plates, Hannah asked casually, "So, Em, what's the plan for your lake house this summer?" "Same as usual," I said. "A few quiet weeks, maybe invite some friends, maybe rent it out for a bit." She tilted her head, smiling that bright, careless smile. "Good for you," she said. But something in her tone made me uneasy. My parents exchanged a quick look I didn't catch until later. The next morning, I drove back to Chicago, windows down, cold air whipping through. I tried not to think about how empty I'd felt at that dinner table. But as the skyline appeared in the distance, the thought kept looping in my mind, maybe this was all I'd ever be to them, the dependable one, the one they could take from without asking. 2 weeks later, the message came. That single line in the family group chat detonated everything. The message came on a Thursday morning while I was at my desk halfway through a spreadsheet. "We're taking your lake house for the summer," Hannah wrote in our family group chat, sunshine emoji. I froze, watching the screen light up like fireworks. Mom reacted first with a heart, then Dad with a thumbs up. Aunt Maggie, "Oh, how lovely." Uncle John can't wait to fish again, cousins chimed in with smiley faces and weekend plans. In less than 2 minutes, my entire family had scheduled their vacation at my house. No one asked if it was okay. No one even mentioned me. I typed, "Actually, I already have plans to stay there this June. Please check with me before making arrangements." The reply came fast. "Hannah, don't be selfish, Em. It's just family. Mom." Everyone ignore Emily's message. She'll come around. Then the avalanche texts about how family means sharing, how I've changed, how I should relax. I stared at the flood of messages until the words blurred. I wasn't angry, yet just numb. They'd always assume my silence meant agreement. Maybe it did once. But that morning, something inside me went still. Ryan called during lunch. "You okay?" he asked. I told him everything, the group chat, the entitlement, the casual cruelty. He listened the way he always does, without interrupting. "So what are you going to do?" For once, I said, "I think I'm going to let them find out who I really am." That night, I scrolled through old messages, years of small favors, quick transfers, gentle thank yous that never meant anything. Every, "Can you help us just this once?" Every, "You're the best, I realized it had never been gratitude. It was ownership disguised as love. By midnight, I was pacing my apartment lights off, phone glowing in my hand. Their latest text blinked at the top, "You're being ridiculous." The words pulsed like heat behind my eyes. I thought about the lake house, its porch lights, the smell of pine, the quiet mornings I'd built for myself, and I pictured them trampling through it like it was theirs. I didn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., I opened my laptop and started searching home security installation near me. I wasn't planning revenge out of rage. It was clarity, cold and calm. For the first time, I wasn't trying to keep the peace, I was drawing a line. When dawn came, I brewed coffee, looked out at the city, and whispered, "All right." They thought I'd give in. They thought I'd let it slide. They had no idea that silence in my hands had become a weapon. I took 2 personal days from work and drove to the lake before sunrise. The roads were empty mist curling over the asphalt like ghosts. When the trees opened to reveal the water, I felt my chest loosen for the first time in weeks. That house had always been my sanctuary. Now it would become my statement. I started with the locks. A locksmith named Carlos arrived before noon, cheerful and talkative until he saw my expression. "Family trouble?" he asked lightly. "You could say that," I said. He didn't ask again. By the time he left, every door and window had new keys, mine alone. Next came the security system. 2 technicians from a local company installed motion cameras around the porch, driveway, and dock. I watched them move through the property like quiet soldiers, drilling, wiring, connecting. When they handed me the control app, I felt a strange surge power, clean and steady. That night, I sat on the porch steps with a notebook and listed every transfer, every favor I'd ever done. Washing machine, car insurance, medical bills. Every line was proof of how I'd been trained to serve. At the bottom of the page, I wrote one sentence, "It ends here." Before leaving, I walked through each room. The kitchen still smelled faintly of coffee and pine cleaner. In the living room, light spilled across the lake through wide glass doors. I imagined Hannah throwing open those doors like she owned them, my parents laughing, everyone congratulating themselves for another family getaway. The image burned, but not with pain. Clarity again, sharp and steady. I locked the door behind me and drove back to Chicago, the lake shrinking in the rearview mirror. That weekend, the group chat buzzed with new excitement. Playlists, grocery lists, sleeping arrangements. I said nothing. Sunday night, Ryan leaned against my kitchen counter, watching me scroll through the feed from the security cameras. "You're really doing this," he said. I already did. He smiled slow and proud. "Then let them learn." I nodded, closing the laptop. Outside, the city hummed oblivious. Inside, everything felt still. I didn't need to fight them anymore. I just needed to wait. By late May, the family group chat lit up again. Hannah wrote, "Tomorrow, we're all heading to Emily's lake house. Who's bringing what?" Within minutes, the replies flooded in. Aunt Maggie bringing wine, Dad packing fishing gear, Mom promising her famous potato salad. The emojis danced like confetti. I sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, coffee cooling beside me, watching it unfold. My pulse didn't even spike. I'd already checked the camera feeds twice that morning. System's green sensors, armed locks sealed. I knew what was coming. Ryan glanced up from the couch. "You ready?" I smiled, small but sure, more than ever. The next morning dawned bright and ordinary. I worked from home, answered a few emails, then propped my laptop where I could see the security feed beside my screen. Around noon, movement flashed in the top left window. A silver SUV rolled up the gravel driveway, dust trailing behind it. Hannah and Tyler stepped out first, sunglasses on beach bags slung over their shoulders. Behind them, my parents' sedan. Then a third car, Aunt Maggie and Uncle John. 4 vehicles, total laughter spilling out as doors slammed, voices calling across the yard. Hannah jogged up to the front door, jingling her keys like victory bells. "Got it," she shouted. I leaned closer to the camera feed. She tried the lock. It didn't turn. She frowned, tried again, twisting harder. Nothing. Tyler came over, tested his own key. Same result. I could almost hear the confusion through the screen, the quick, nervous chatter, the tone shifting from cheer to irritation. Then Hannah's voice, sharper now. Emily must have changed something. Dad appeared beside her, gray hair catching the sunlight. "Maybe she lost the old keys," he said, trying to smooth it over. But when he looked up and noticed the new camera above the door, his expression froze. I sipped my coffee. They all followed his gaze, Mom shielding her eyes, Aunt Maggie muttering something. Hannah stepped back, hands on her hips. "Is she seriously filming us?" A text buzzed on my phone. Mom calling, then Hannah, then Tyler. I let them ring. When the family group chat started lighting up again, I clicked it open. "Hannah, Emily, this isn't funny. Let us in." Mom, "How could you do this to your own family?" Dad, "We drove 6 hours." Aunt Maggie, "You're being ridiculous." I typed slowly, every word deliberate. "If you break that door, the alarm will go off. The police will come. You'll all be arrested for trespassing." I hit send. On screen, they all paused, pulling out their phones in near unison. I watched the message appear in their chat bubbles, the realization spreading across their faces like a slow infection. Confusion, shock, then fear. Hannah dropped her phone first, bending to grab it with trembling hands. Mom pressed her palm to her chest. Dad's jaw tightened. Aunt Maggie muttered something that made Tyler flinch. Ryan leaned over my shoulder. They got it. The front yard on the feed was chaos now. Gestures, accusations, the kind of angry body language families use when they've lost control. I imagined the sound overlapping voices, excuses forming faster than logic. Then came the moment of silence, the one I'd been waiting for. Mom looked directly into the camera. I met her eyes through the pixelated lens. She mouthed something I couldn't hear, but I knew what it was. "How could you?" For once, I didn't feel guilt. I felt clean. After 15 minutes of arguing among themselves, they started retreating. Bags dropped in frustration, coolers shoved back into trunks, slamming doors. One by one, the cars backed out of the driveway tires, crunching over gravel until only dust and pine needles remained. I closed my laptop. Ryan exhaled beside me. That was beautiful. I smiled. No screaming, no fighting, just truth. The phone rang again that evening, Mom's number flashing. I let it buzz twice, then answered. Her voice came sharp, trembling. "How could you do this, Emily? To your own family? I warned you," I said. My tone was calm, measured. "It's my property. You don't get to claim it because you feel entitled to it. You're being cruel." "No," I said. "I'm being clear, and from now on, you can handle your own bills, too. I'm done funding this family's comfort." There was silence. Then a shaky, "You don't mean that." "I do. Every word." I hung up. That night, I opened my banking app and canceled the recurring transfers, my parents' allowance, Hannah's car insurance, Aunt Maggie's medical payments. One by one, gone. Each cancellation felt like unclipping a chain. The next few days were a storm of calls and texts. At first, rage, "You're ruining this family," then guilt. "We just wanted to spend time together." Then apologies. Maybe we overstepped. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Instead, I drove to the lake house the following week. The air smelled clean, untouched. Inside, everything was exactly how I'd left it. Quiet, orderly mine. I opened the porch doors and let the breeze roll through. The water shimmered under late spring light. For 2 weeks, I lived the way I'd always wanted to, mornings on the dock, with coffee, afternoons, reading evenings, watching the sunset bleed into the trees. No calls, no guilt. Every sound felt amplified, the rustle of pines, the low hum of the fridge, my own breathing. Peace had texture, and I could finally feel it. One night, while watching the footage from that day again, I paused the video on Hannah's face, frozen between disbelief and recognition. The moment she realized she'd lost control, I didn't smile or gloat. I just sat there remembering the years that led to that expression, the dismissive laughs, the endless "you'll come around." This was the first time I didn't come around. Ryan visited that weekend. He stood beside me on the porch, hands in his pockets, eyes on the lake. "You think they'll ever understand?" Maybe, I said. "But it doesn't matter if they do." He nodded, quiet. "You look different. I feel different." We watched the sunset until the light disappeared. The air cooled, and for the first time in my life, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. Summer slipped by quietly. My family didn't visit again. The calls slowed, then stopped altogether. I deleted the group chat one evening without ceremony, just a swipe of silence. At first it felt strange not to check for messages, but soon the quiet became comforting. Work went better than ever. My focus returned, my performance sharp. Karen, my boss, noticed. "You seem lighter," she said one morning. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." Ryan and I spent weekends at the lake, just us, coffee and slow mornings, no interruptions. Sometimes I'd catch myself glancing at the cameras, not out of fear, but as a reminder that I'd learned to protect my peace. A few months later, I got a text from Mom. "We'd like to talk, maybe start over." I thought about it for a while, then replied simply, "Not yet." For the first time, saying no didn't ache. It felt like truth. The people who had once drained me were no longer in control. My life wasn't loud, but it was mine, every quiet second of it. When I looked out over the lake that evening, the surface was still reflecting only the sky. And for once, that was enough. A year later, everything looked different. I'd been promoted to senior data analyst, and Ryan and I were planning our wedding. My family had learned to live without my money, and I'd learned to live without their approval. When Mom called for my birthday, her voice was softer, careful. We spoke politely, like distant neighbors, and it was enough. The lake house remains my sanctuary, locks changed, cameras still humming. Some people might call that paranoia. I call it peace. I've realized something: boundaries aren't cruelty. They're clarity. Love doesn't mean surrendering yourself to be used. It means protecting the part of you that no one else bothered to. If you've ever had to draw that line between duty and self-respect, tell me in the comments. You're not alone. And if you want to hear more stories like this, hit subscribe. The next one might remind you that saying no can save your life.